We have to go back to school for this. Here we are. Good. TLC, Transporting Live Critters with Tender Loving Care, an interactive session that I'll start off with, and then Ford will finish up from the public perspective. And I hope from this, everyone will come away with an appreciation for what it means to transport animals, the complexities, the logistics, and I'll provide a foundation for the presentations that will follow me in this tomorrow and today. So I'm going to be using a product called Poll Everywhere. And it's an interactive session, real time, that will collect the input that you give me, give us during the session. During the course of my presentation, these slides will appear, kind of like I'll show you in the lower left-hand corner. And we'll come to that. And what you're going to do is text a message to the number 22333. That's the phone number. And then the response will be following that in a coded fashion. Now, for those of you that are not in the room, that are online, you can go to pollev.com/bkennedy, BW Kennedy, and provide your responses there. Select your answer. It'll appear on the screen immediately. All those responses will show up. Your responses are anonymous. They're not identified. And I have to tell you that if there's a texting charge, just send me the bill. I'll take care of it for you. All right, so here it is. We're going to be doing this particular question. This one isn't live just yet. But the question is, the welfare of animals during transportation is important. I think we would all agree with that. So we would send the message to 22333. This is a response. And down here, 579246 matches the true response. That's how it works. I'm telling you what to enter and do it where. Now, if you're doing it online, go to the URL. And this same question should appear, and you can click on true. So let's practice with this one. This is the real poll. Send your message, true, 579246, and you see how it's already increasing. Get rid of that picture. It's increasing over here. 8 responses true. And this is everyone collecting information right now. And over the course of the following slides, we'll be able to find out what we know, what we don't know, and pique the interest for the topics of transporting animals, domestically and internationally. So we've got 18 responses, 20 responses. We have about 200 persons participating in this workshop. So it's pretty clear that we would agree that the transportation of animals is very, very important. Moving on to the next one. Here's a multiple choice question. The items above represent variations of what? A mouse shipping crate, a lunchbox, or a carton of cucumbers. And I've represented various kinds of cardboard and plastic boxes to ship rodents. And here's how it works in Poll Everywhere. So you text to 22333 your response. I don't think I'd want to have my lunch in that box. Although you can autoclave these boxes in order that they're shipped, the animals are shipped in a sterile environment. 15 responses. We know that it's a shipping crate. 22 responses. This is great. No one thinks that it holds cucumbers. Those that are extra in the lab? Yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Someone wants to be funny. That's good. Okay, so here's the response. Yes, it is a mouse shipping crate. And the major vendors and suppliers and institutions have their varieties of shipping containers. Now, a follow-up question. Which of the following 4 is not a feature of a mouse shipping crate? Ventilation spacers, polyester filters, a photovoltaic ventilation system, or a viewing window? Which is not part of a mouse shipping crate? Here are the responses. Are we all getting this pretty well? I think so. For those that are saying the viewing window, I want to point out to you right here, right there, that's the viewing window. So as animals are being transported, the mice or the rats typically are being transported from here to there. Customs, someone at the border can look in there and make sure that it is actually rodents. When they arrive at the facility, how are the animals doing at that point? So the answer is, survey says, photovoltaic ventilation, not yet But wouldn't it be kind of cool if we could collect light in some way and power up a fan so that we could increase ventilation in there, or perhaps control temperature as an animal is being transported from here to there? So, but the other features, ventilation spacers and polyester filters or remake filter on the top, these are definitely features right here in order to accommodate the health and welfare conditions of the animals inside. Next follow-up question. The new item above is a what? Is it A, water gel pack, a temperature regulator, a deodorizing packet, or maybe you don't know? Not everyone is in the lab animal industry. Some of us from the public may not understand and appreciate the mechanics, the logistics, the sophisticatedness of having to ship animals in some fashion. So, Poll Everywhere says, what is that new item? What am I illustrating here? Water gel pack, temperature regulator. I think it's okay not to know. That's why we're having this workshop, to inform everybody as to the logistics of shipping animals.
So I'm online reviews and it said I've responded the maximum number of times.
Are you seeing this particular question?
Yes, and I answered it and that's what came up.
Should have had one choice. That should have been there. Do you have a doppelganger of some kind, of someone else?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
So this is a water gel pack, and it is to provide hydration to the animals while they're being transported. That's the answer. Now, this is another follow-up question to the water gel pack, but it's free text. And free texting is a little bit different. And tomorrow we'll be doing some free texting in David Kurtz's presentation. So the question here is, what mistake can happen with that water gel pack? Where does training need to occur for the staff that are responsible for packing the animals into this particular box? In this case, we're going to send out a word or words, and you need to precede the words with the code 183597. So that is essentially the response with whatever you want to say. We're still sending it to 22333, but you need to precede your words with this code 183597, as it shows here. Access, rupture, mice, can't cut it. So the responses are coming this way as they're being posted. Pack, dry. So the issue with this particular mouse pack is it comes in plastic sheath or casing. And it's the responsibility of the shipper, the person who packs the mice, needs to cut that open to make sure that the gel comes out, or else the mice won't have the hydration source. It's gelatin or jello. That's how they're getting their water. So it's critical when packing mice or packing rodents in general in boxes that all of the components are addressed and a checklist. Yes, I did cut the plastic and remove that plastic. And it's important to secure that water gel pack someplace in the packet, in the carton, such that it doesn't move and perhaps will harm the animal. So all good answers here. Slipped, yes. Rupture, forgot to. There we go. Excellent. Okay, another free text question. Why do we ship animals? Many, many different reasons. Why do we ship animals? And you notice here, besides the typical lab animal box, we've got a dog cage in a plane, and we've got the transport of agricultural animals in some fashion. So a free text question is, why do we ship animals? This time we're sending the message to the code 184512. Collaboration, I like that one. Why is it that we ship animals? What is the purpose? Why do we have this workshop? What are we trying to impress? Need some more responses. To relocate them. Research projects, enable science, my goodness. Share research. This is what's very cool about the Poll Everywhere activity or exercise to be used in schools and large rooms like this. The answers are coming right up. People can express their opinions this way. Or science, discover cures. I think it's important to collect all this information These responses. A few more. Are we getting some themes out of here? A lot of it is about research. But we're also transporting animals because companion animals needing to go from here to there, to other countries as we relocate ourselves to save lives, wherever they are needed. Very good.
Bruce, are these responses saved someplace? Or?
They are saved at Poll Everywhere, but they do not have an identity associated with them. There's an anonymous button that I can click, so I have no idea where they're coming from.
You can go back to that.
Yes, yes. So we can do an analysis of this if we want and say, this is what a majority of the people are thinking. This is the public forum, right? That's why we're meeting at the NAS. Ford will speak to that in a few minutes. So we'll be able to find out what people know and don't know. That's the whole reason for starting ourselves out this way. Okay, so true-false question. It's freezing outside. Yeah, right. It's freezing outside and you're ready to fly. There's ice on the wings of the plane. The planes are being de-iced. The question is, the airline will transport your dog to in the hold of the plane. True, false? Please send your response to Poll Everywhere. You get to go in your nice jacket. It's freezing outside. You are ready to fly. Can the dog go too, or the cat, or the primate, or the box of mice? This is a logistical question for those of us who transport animals or ship animals. We need to pay attention to the weather, to the conditions under which animals are being transported. Seems like the polling has stopped. So my answer is no, the animals cannot go at that point. But there are exceptions. And from the Animal Welfare Act regulations, it says, when the outdoor air temperature falls below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, animals shall not be subject to less than 45 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 45 minutes unless accompanied by a certificate of acclimation. In the lab animal world, that typically comes from a veterinarian, or maybe the investigator says, this animal can tolerate those conditions. But typically, and the airline can refuse to ship even one's companion animal. You may go, but the animal may not be able to go because the airline says, no, that's not going to happen. And we've got an even response here. And that's what I would expect because it can be even. In some situations, that animal might go if it has a letter of certification that it can manage to go. Okay. New question, true, false? The regulations pertaining to the shipment of animals apply equally to the transport of companion or pet animals, those that you own, and research animals. What are your thoughts? True, false? Do the regulations apply equally? True or false? To our dogs, our birds, zebrafish, great transgenic model, to primates. The nice thing about this polling situation is it's anonymous and it's not a show of hands and you look around, oh, what's that person answering? I'll answer the same thing. This is anonymous and you can say anything you want on the Poll Everywhere. It's very useful to keep attention in classroom situations. So we've got a roughly equal number of responses to say that the regs apply equally. But the answer is that the regs do apply to both companion animals and research animals. We'll be learning a lot about that over the next 2 days. Okay, so another free text question. Whether an aquatic or a terrestrial animal, besides the obvious feed and water, what else must we think about when transporting them? And if you could limit it to one word answer and text it to 183-235, what else do we need to worry about besides feed and water? What are the other logistical concerns? What would be part of a standard operating procedure as we box up an elephant, as well as a primate, as well as a mouse, or other organisms that need to be transported? Temperature, 2 responses, oxygen. Environment, safety, that's a big one, yes. The stress issue, temperature emphasized, the kind of bedding, nestlet material, something to keep the animal warm. In my practice, I would take the nestlet or the bedding out of the home cage of a rodent, put it in with that animal so it has its own pheromones, has its own scent, is familiar with that box. Look at the responses here. Space. We'll be hearing more about this, but it's the security of the box. You saw how the other ones in the initial slides were strapped together. They're separators for putting animals, two sets of animals in the same box, so they will not get upset with one another. Acclimation is important, yes. Stress, temperature, safety, those seem to be the big ones. Ventilation is, of course, important. If you notice in the boxes, they have legs or legs at the top, in a sense, to keep a separation from one carton to the next carton. Animals need to be separated. That's why they're trapezoidal in this way, so that there can be air movement around those boxes. Okay, does your institution have a dedicated animal shipping coordinator, or otherwise known as an import-export technician? Someone who has the responsibility for putting all this together, medical records, and boxing the animals, making sure the animals are available, consulting with the transport companies when we have representatives from those companies speaking to us these 2 days. So text this, your responses to 22333. No, you don't have one. Yes, part-time. The larger institutions, Mr. Disco, how many do you have? Pardon me. How many do you have? You answer my question.
Actually, we have two. We
Yes.
have one for import, one for export.
Wow, one of each.
Yes, 100%.
Right. I like this one. We see the need, working on creating one. I hope we hear more about that, what it means to be and have that major responsibility. And I'd like to share, as we're providing more responses, that there is a group called the Mouse Book Network. Some folks from, Steve Leary, one of the guys, Gary, is at Wash University, and he's one of the heads of this group. So, like many other partnerships, there are folks that talk to one another in the import-export business. And now I'll provide you a commercial that during the ALAS meeting in San Antonio at the end of next month, there are 2 sessions actually that are talking about the transport of animals. That's how important the subject is, the same as our very first survey question. Here we go. So I'm glad to see that many people do have their own person. 22 of the responses say that we have someone on board that's responsible for this activity. How many countries ship animals for research purposes? Only a few. I pulled up some of the ALAS countries, probably most of them. ALAS, countries that have ALAS members, that's over 40. Countries that do. So how many countries ship animals for research purposes? Fewer than 10? More than 75? What's your answer? I'll give you a hint, it's a great number. There we go. Being an educator, it's all about getting the learning, but not in the style of drill and kill. We want to inform. So there's the answer. The yellow bar shows us more than 75 countries are shipping animals. Now the related question that's not on Poll Everywhere here is how many countries are there in the world? Almost 200. So about 1/3 of our countries are shipping research animals. Is it acceptable to ship animals from the United States to Australia over the Labor Day holiday? Is it? Yes, no, it depends, don't know. This is a question about the calendar. Is it okay to ship animals over Labor Day holiday? It depends. And that would be my answer. It depends. Why does it depend? What's Labor Day in the States? That was just this week, right? I was traveling that day, and the airports were a little bit crazy because it's a big travel day, rivals the other holidays in the wintertime. But does Australia have a Labor Day at the same time?
Probably May 1st.
Yeah, right. There are other times, but we have to be cognizant of the holidays, something that we'll be talking about in David's presentation on journey planning. So keep that in mind. It's a hint. So you can win points in his presentation. So it depends. We have to know what's going on in the other country and what's going to be happening in the airports. and whether the holiday is at the end of the week, beginning of the week, and so forth. Now, according to shippers of transgenic mice, the number one item delaying the shipment is what? Is it weather restrictions, quarantine space, health report information, or the typical D response, you just don't know. But that's why you're here, to learn these things. According to shippers, transgenic mice, the number one item that delays shipments. Interesting. Interesting. Looks like it's slowed down enough at this point. Okay. My answer is weather restrictions at that point. All ready to go, but a snowstorm hits. Or the weather is just bad. Imagine trying to ship through DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth right now in this heat. Or just even trying to come out of Washington to go someplace else. My state, California, we're dry and hot all the time, it seems. And it's a challenge to get the animals out. You can imagine what it's like to be on the tarmac where it's real hot. Okay, a group of non-human primates is to be shipped from overseas to an American university. Critical thing to do. Which government agencies would have an interest? Customs, CITES, CDC, Fish and Wildlife Service. Which agencies? I want to point out to you these cute passport photos up at the top of cloth monkeys. I have to remove this. These are functions or tools for using Poll Everywhere that pop up. So this is going to be a curious one. Which government agencies have an interest in the shipment of non-human primates into America? As you're answering, give you a hint. Well, yes, CDC would be interested. That's the number one. U.S. Customs didn't get very many votes, but they're interested. How about CITES? Yes, and FWS. All of these agencies. Everyone gets the right answer. I'll give you applause for that. Everyone has an interest, and that's part of why it's difficult to be shipping animals. There's so many people at the border allowing or not those animals to come in to our country.
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security, too.
Just so you know, I tried this on purpose, and it says you can't vote anymore on this poll, and that's because I chose multiple.
Ah, well, that's okay, because I figured it'd be one this way, and people would be distributing, yeah. Poll Everywhere does have that limitation, not being able to answer different questions at some points, okay.
The CITES is not a government agency, right?
Thank you. I know that, but the way I put the question together, see, the teacher learns from the students too. It's the way it should be. But everyone has this interest, and everyone has some paperwork, and everyone is concerned about the exchange of animals, the import or export of animals in some fashion. So just for a correction, CITES is not a government agency. True or false, animals can exhibit jet lag. True or false? Would we call it jet lag? Would we call it stress? Would we call it something? Whatever it is, whoops, I need to go back to that one. Whatever it is, the animals have to acclimate. And there's a reason for animals going into a quarantine area to be acclimated before they're used in research, testing, or teaching. Okay. Now the question is, which agency, which transport company can transport rats? UPS, FedEx, UPS, or you just don't know? In the interest of time, I'll tell you that the answer is none of them really will ship rats. And as we'll be learning later on, this information, various carriers have variations of acceptance, what they will take or what they won't take. Most will not take mammals. Interestingly, the Postal Service will take day-old birds. probably left over from chickens and shipping from Sears Roebuck or something at some time. But most agencies do not, most of the transport companies do not. IATA has guidelines to describe the transport of how many different kinds of animals, which is the number. How many different kinds of animals are described in the IATA guidelines for shipping? There we go. That's the response I was looking for. It's actually 7,000, over 7,000 different animals are specified. And these are some of the companies that have transport mechanisms, shipping supplies, and so forth to help. Okay, so that concludes this presentation. Thank you for your participation. I hope you've contributed and learned at the same time, participated using Poll Everywhere about transporting live critters. And from the public perspective, Ford has a few words to say.
Okay, good morning. I'm going to kind of serve as an adjunct to what Bruce just kind of covered. I believe you're going to be using a format like this for a presentation tomorrow. And you'll have...
Okay, just hold on to it. Okay.
You'll have an opportunity to once again provide feedback in response to a simulation tomorrow. But my intention today is to kind of explain another sort of collaborative tool. And what we really want to do is really on behalf of the entire planning committee, you know, the intention and invitation for you to really provide us with some important feedback. I think a lot of times when you come to workshops, you don't have an opportunity to always ask the kinds of questions or certainly get some answers to the questions that you have in a forum like this. So we certainly want you to have an opportunity to give comments and to certainly ask questions that there may not be time during some of the sessions to provide or to give you answers for, as well as to provide comments, or more importantly, takeaways that you will hopefully kind of mutter and kind of consider as you leave the workshop. And really, what are some of the key takeaways that you might have in mind that will also give us some feedback about what your perspectives were at the end of the workshop. So rather than just waiting till the end of both days, we're asking for those who are online, they already have registered for the webcam, the webcast, and so you already have a link that goes to a specific place that we call the parking lot that's going to enable you to provide feedback for your comments, questions, and things that you take away for that day. For those here real time from face to face, we have kind of in the foyer back there is a easel that has a poster that will take any of the comments that you have, questions, takeaways, etc., that we would like you to put on a sticky note and then just place the sticky note right onto the board. That way everybody here can look at those responses as well as we are going to look at those responses. And many of those questions, we're going to kind of collate them and kind of put them together and summarize them and address them in the morning tomorrow. So our intention really here is, bottom line, is that we want to be extremely collaborative and responsive to a lot of the sort of ways in which people kind of respond to the presentations. And it's our hope that there's more than just kind of sitting here during the presentations and having dialogue among yourselves, but also include those who are participating virtually to also participate in that same sort of forum. So,
Thank you very much for listening.